So here's the thing about the Galactic Council. They can terraform planets, bend space-time like origami, and create artificial intelligence that's smarter than entire civilizations. But ask them to fix a 50-year-old defense system. Suddenly everyone's got a headache, and a very important meeting to attend. The Dragon's Teeth. That's what they called the massive defense grid, protecting the galactic core. 20,000 automated weapon platforms, arranged in perfect formation, each one the size of a small moon, bristling with enough firepower to turn an invasion fleet into cosmic dust. Beautiful concept, really. Too bad it had been shooting at random garbage trucks, pizza delivery ships, and the occasional tourist vessel for the past 5 decades. And who got the honor of fixing this galaxy-threatening disaster? Not the brilliant Zephyrian engineers who built it. Not the wise Altarian strategists who designed the targeting systems. Not even the mechanoid specialists who maintained it until they all mysteriously requested transfers to literally anywhere else in the universe. Nope. They gave it to Luna Wrenchworth, a 28-year-old human maintenance engineer from Earth, who had exactly zero experience with weaponized space stations, and a reputation for fixing broken coffee machines with excessive amounts of percussive maintenance. Congratulations, said Director Vextahol, sliding the assignment pad across his desk like it was contaminated with something infectious. You've been selected for a very special opportunity. Luna picked up the pad, and read exactly 3 words before her coffee mug hit the floor. Dragon's Teeth Maintenance. Are you kidding me? I fix environmental systems and vending machines. This thing has been the Council's biggest embarrassment since the great toilet paper shortage of 2387, which is precisely why we need fresh perspective, Vextahol replied, his tentacles twitching in what Luna had learned was either excitement or nervous breakdown. Every specialist in the galaxy has attempted repairs. Perhaps someone with your unique approach to problem solving can succeed where others have failed. Translation. Everyone competent had already quit, died, or faked their own deaths to avoid this assignment. Luna glanced at the technical specifications scrolling across the pad. Power output readings that made her calculator give up and display sad face emoticons. Targeting algorithms written in 17 different programming languages, 6 of which were apparently extinct. And a maintenance log that read like a horror story, complete with entries like Day 847. The left flank is shooting at itself again, and whoever programmed the friend or foe system clearly had trust issues. What's the survival rate for this job? Luna asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Vextahol's tentacles went completely still. We prefer not to discuss statistics. That bad, huh? Let's just say there's a very active betting pool across 17 star systems regarding your mission duration. The current odds are quite specific. Luna looked up from the pad. How specific? The most popular bet is that you'll last exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. There's also a surprising amount of money on you accidentally fixing the problem while trying to escape. Great. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations were treating her impending doom like a sporting event. Luna wondered if she could get a cut of the betting action, assuming she lived long enough to collect. When do I start? She asked, because apparently self-preservation wasn't one of her stronger instincts. Your transport leaves in 6 hours. Try not to die before then. The paperwork would be terrible. The briefing room looked like someone had decorated it with the contents of a galactic garage sale. Mismatched chairs, a holographic projector that flickered every few seconds, and a coffee machine that had been out of order since the council was founded. Luna arrived to find her elite support team already assembled, and the word elite was doing some serious heavy lifting here. Commander Blix stood at attention beside a tactical display, his purple uniform so crisp it could probably cut glass. Everything about him screamed military precision, from his perfectly aligned insignia to the way he held his laser pointer like a ceremonial sword. Too bad he looked like he'd never seen actual combat outside of holographic war simulations. Ah, the human arrives, Blix announced, as if Luna's punctuality was somehow a tactical victory. I am Commander Blix of the 47th Strategic Defense Initiative, veteran of 0 actual battles but highly decorated in theoretical combat scenarios. Did he just admit he's never been in a real fight? Luna whispered to nobody in particular. Oh yes, replied Professor Quibble, looking up from a tablet covered in equations that seemed to be solving themselves. Blix is quite proud of his perfect simulation record. 17,000 victories against digital opponents. Of course he did once lose to a tutorial program, but we don't discuss that. Quibble was exactly what Luna expected from an absent-minded scientist stereotype, complete with wild gray hair that defied several laws of physics and glasses held together with what appeared to be space duct tape. His lab coat had stains that could have been coffee, chemical burns, or possibly evidence from unsolved crimes. And you are? Luna asked. Professor Quibble, theoretical astrophysicist, practical disaster. I've been studying the dragon's teeth for 30 years, though I must admit, I keep forgetting the basic principles of how weapons work. Something about energy going into things and making them not exist anymore. Very complicated stuff. Luna was starting to understand why the betting pools had such specific time predictions. Don't forget me, said a mechanical voice from the corner. Though everyone else seems to manage it just fine. The voice belonged to maintenance bot X47, a standard utility droid that looked like someone had built it from spare parts during a supply shortage. Its chrome finish was more rust than shine, and one of its optical sensors had a crack that made it look perpetually annoyed. Let me guess, Luna said. You're the one who's supposed to actually know how to fix things. I was designed to maintain critical systems throughout the galaxy. X47 replied, its voice dripping with electronic sarcasm. Instead, I've spent the last decade watching organic beings fail at basic mechanical tasks while I'm relegated to fetching coffee and being ignored during important meetings. My abandonment issues have abandonment issues. Right, so we have a commander who's never commanded, a scientist who's forgotten how science works, and a robot with depression. This is going to go great. Commander Blix activated the holographic display, which immediately showed a three-dimensional image of the dragon's teeth installation upside down and rotating in the wrong direction. As you can see from this perfectly calibrated tactical overview, the dragon's teeth consists of 20,000 automated defense platforms arranged in a defensive perimeter around the galactic core. That's a nice garbage disposal, Luna observed, watching the hologram spin wildly. It's upside down again, isn't it? Quibble asked, squinting at the display. I can never tell. Spatial relationships aren't my strong suit. Neither is remembering to eat, sleeping, or basic personal hygiene, but that's beside the point. X47 extended a mechanical arm and whacked the projector. The hologram flipped right side up, then promptly caught fire. Perfect, Blix said, as if flaming holographic displays were a normal part of military briefings. As I was saying, each platform is equipped with enough firepower to destroy a small planet, but for the past 50 years, they've been targeting random civilian vessels, space debris, and on one memorable occasion, their own command center. Why hasn't anyone just turned it off? Luna asked, which seemed like a reasonable question. The room went dead silent. Quibble dropped his tablet. X47's optical sensors flickered. Even the burning hologram seemed to pause. Turn it off, Blix repeated, as if Luna had just suggested they solve poverty by giving everyone money. You know, like a power switch. Big red button. Pull the plug. Basic troubleshooting 101. The dragon's teeth cannot simply be turned off. Quibble explained, using air quotes that made Luna want to hit something. It's a complex system with multiple redundancies and fail-safes designed to prevent unauthorized shutdown. So you tried the off switch. Another long silence. We've been focusing on more sophisticated solutions, Blix said finally. That's a no. X47's mechanical sigh was audible from across the room. 50 years of genius-level problem solving, and nobody thought to look for an off switch. I need a drink, and I don't even have a digestive system. The transport ship looked like it had been designed by committee, assuming the committee consisted entirely of people who had never seen a spaceship before. It was called the Stellar Determination, which was optimistic considering it seemed to be held together by wishful thinking, and whatever the galactic equivalent of duct tape was. This is our ride, Luna asked, watching a piece of hull plating drift past the observation window. The Determination has a perfect safety record, Commander Blix announced proudly. 0 accidents in the past 6 months. How long has it been in service? 6 months and 3 days. What happened 3 days ago? Blix's confident expression faltered. We prefer not to discuss the christening ceremony. Luna was starting to notice a pattern with these people and their relationship with discussing things. The ship's AI welcomed them aboard with all the enthusiasm of someone reading their own obituary. Welcome to the Stellar Determination. Please note that life support is currently operating at 67% efficiency. Artificial gravity is experiencing minor fluctuations, and the navigation system is having an existential crisis. Have a pleasant journey. Define minor fluctuations, Luna said, just as her feet left the floor. Gravity is more of a suggestion than a law at the moment. The ship's AI replied cheerfully. We recommend magnetic boots, and a strong grip on your dignity. Professor Quibble floated by upside down, still scribbling equations on his tablet. Fascinating. 0 gravity always makes me forget which way is up. Of course I usually forget that anyway, so this is actually an improvement. X47 had magnetically clamped itself to the nearest wall and was watching the organic crew members bounce around like pinballs. This is why I don't trust biological beings with important tasks. You can't even handle basic locomotion without gravity doing all the work. 3 hours into their journey, The ship's hyperdrive decided to interpret straight line to destination as scenic route through every asteroid field in the sector. The ship shuddered, groaned, and made sounds that Luna was pretty sure weren't supposed to come from anything that wasn't dying. "This is perfectly normal," Blix assured everyone, as sparks showered from an overhead panel. "Military vessels are built to withstand extreme conditions." "Is extreme conditions military speak for falling apart?" Luna asked, dodging a piece of ceiling that had decided to relocate itself. "The determination is simply expressing its individuality," the ship's AI chimed in. "Every ship has personality quirks. Some ships are fast, some are efficient, some are reliable. The determination is special." "Special how?" "It's very good at not exploding. Usually." Luna was beginning to suspect that the betting pools back home had been overly optimistic about her survival chances. As they finally approached the Dragon's Teeth installation, Luna got her first real look at the galaxy's most expensive mistake. The defense grid stretched across space like a metallic spider web, each platform bristling with weapons that could crack planets. It was massive, intimidating, and absolutely beautiful in its deadly precision. It was also shooting at a passing ice cream truck. "There's our target," Blix said, pointing at the installation as if anyone could miss the continent-sized collection of weapons platforms. The Dragon's Teeth defense grid, pride of the Galactic Council's military engineering. "Why is it attacking frozen desserts?" Luna asked, watching the ice cream truck execute evasive maneuvers that would have impressed a fighter pilot. "The targeting system has difficulty distinguishing between threats and non-threats," Professor Quibble explained. "Current threat assessment protocols classify everything as potentially hostile, including but not limited to cargo vessels, passenger liners, space debris, small asteroids, large asteroids, cosmic radiation, and the color blue." "The color blue? Don't ask me to explain it. I wrote the original targeting algorithm, but I've completely forgotten how it works. Something about wavelength analysis and existential dread." Luna stared at the massive installation, watching it systematically destroy everything that came within 1,000,000 kilometers. 50 years of the galaxy's best minds trying to fix this thing, and nobody had figured out that maybe, just maybe, the problem wasn't that the system was broken. Maybe the problem was that it was working exactly as programmed. "I think I'm starting to understand why everyone else failed," Luna muttered. "Because the Dragon's Teeth is too complex for ordinary minds to comprehend?" Blix asked hopefully. "No, because you're all idiots." X-47's optical sensors brightened. "Oh, I like her. She's beginning to understand the fundamental nature of organic intelligence." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Luna said, then paused as a terrible thought occurred to her. "Wait, if this thing shoots at everything, how exactly are we supposed to get close enough to fix it?" The ship suddenly went very quiet. Even the sparking panels seemed to pause. "We're still working on that part," Blix admitted. "You don't have a plan for getting past the weapons that destroy everything?" "We have several theoretical approaches," Professor Quibble offered. "My favorite involves quantum tunneling, but I can't remember if that's actually possible or just something I dreamed about." Luna looked out at the Dragon's Teeth installation, watching it methodically vaporize a tourist shuttle that had wandered too close. The realization was starting to sink in that she wasn't just supposed to fix an impossible problem. She was supposed to fix an impossible problem, while being shot at by the thing she was trying to fix. "This is going to be fun," she said, and meant the exact opposite. Getting past the Dragon's Teeth turned out to be surprisingly easy, which should have been Luna's first warning that everything was about to go spectacularly wrong. Commander Blix's brilliant infiltration strategy involved flying straight at the installation while broadcasting diplomatic immunity codes on repeat, apparently under the theory that ancient weapon systems respected bureaucratic paperwork. Miraculously, it worked. The Dragon's Teeth let them pass without so much as a warning shot, which Luna found infinitely more terrifying than being fired upon. Military systems that ignored obvious threats were like smoke detectors that only went off during dinner parties. Technically functional, but fundamentally useless. "See?" Blix said triumphantly as they docked with Platform 7. "Perfect military precision. The Dragon's Teeth recognizes authorized personnel, or it's saving ammunition," X-47 muttered, extending his manipulator arms to interface with the airlock controls. "These systems have been firing continuously for 50 years. Maybe they're finally running low on things to shoot." The interior of Platform 7 looked like someone had designed a space station using only the concept of intimidating and a complete ignorance of basic ergonomics. Everything was sharp angles, dramatic lighting, and surfaces that seemed specifically designed to cause injury during routine maintenance. The corridors were wide enough for small armies but had no handrails, the lighting flickered ominously for no apparent reason, and the floor was made of some kind of metal that was apparently too advanced for basic friction. Magnificent, breathed Professor Quibble, immediately walking into a wall because he was staring at his tablet instead of where he was going. The architectural philosophy clearly emphasizes form over function, aesthetic intimidation over practical utility, and dramatic presentation over basic safety considerations. It's a death trap, Luna said, catching Quibble before he walked into another wall. Exactly. Magnificent. Their first objective was the central control room, which according to the station schematics was located through a series of corridors that seemed to have been designed by someone with a personal vendetta against straight lines. Luna had seen more logical layouts in funhouse mazes. Commander Blix took point, consulting a tactical map that he held upside down for the first 10 minutes of their trek. His confident military stride was somewhat undermined by the fact that he kept stopping to salute automated systems that weren't paying attention to him. The control room should be just ahead, he announced, pointing down a corridor that split into 4 different directions, none of which looked particularly promising. Which ahead? Luna asked. We've got options here. Blix consulted his map, rotated it 90 degrees, frowned, rotated it another 90 degrees, then held it up to the light as if that would somehow make the building layout make sense. Left, he decided with absolute authority. Are you sure? Professor Quibble asked, looking up from his tablet. According to my calculations, which I may have done incorrectly because mathematics is surprisingly difficult, we should go right. I'm following standard military navigation protocols, Blix replied stiffly. Which are, when in doubt, choose the direction that looks most tactically advantageous. Luna looked at the left corridor, which was poorly lit, covered in warning signs in 17 different languages, and had what appeared to be scorch marks on the walls. That looks tactically advantageous to you. It's clearly the path less traveled. Element of surprise. Or it's the path that kills people, which is why it's less traveled. But Blix was already marching confidently down the corridor of obvious doom, and the rest of the team had little choice but to follow. Luna was starting to understand why the commander had such a perfect simulation record. The corridor led to a maintenance bay that was apparently designed by someone who had heard about maintenance but never actually seen it performed. The room was filled with robotic arms that moved in complex patterns for no discernible purpose, diagnostic panels that displayed information in colors that hurt to look at, and a central console that had more buttons than a nuclear power plant and fewer labels than a home appliance. This doesn't look like a control room, Luna observed. It's clearly a tactical command center, Blix insisted, approaching the central console with the confidence of someone who had never met a button he wouldn't press. Military installations often disguise critical systems as routine maintenance areas. Or it's actually a maintenance area, X-47 suggested, his optical sensors scanning the robotic arms with what appeared to be professional interest. Novel concept, I know, but sometimes maintenance areas are just maintenance areas. Professor Quibble was already examining one of the diagnostic panels, which was displaying what appeared to be a real-time analysis of his own confusion levels. Fascinating. This system seems to be monitoring something, though I can't remember what monitoring is for. That's when Blix found the big red button. It wasn't labeled, it wasn't protected by a safety cover, and it wasn't connected to anything that looked remotely important. It was just a big red obvious button sitting in the middle of a console, practically begging someone to press it. Aha, Blix said, reaching for the button with the enthusiasm of someone who had never heard of consequences. Emergency activation protocols. Wait, Luna started to say, but Blix had already committed to his course of action with the unwavering determination of someone who had learned everything he knew about emergency situations from action movies. He pressed the button. For a moment nothing happened. Then the lights went out. Emergency klaxons started blaring, and every robotic arm in the room turned to look at them with what Luna could only describe as mechanical disapproval. Unauthorized maintenance detected, announced a voice that sounded like it had been specifically designed to inspire terror. Initiating defensive protocols. Defensive protocols? Luna asked, but she was pretty sure she already knew the answer. The robotic arms started moving toward them, and Luna realized that the dragon's teeth hadn't let them board out of recognition or ammunition conservation. It had let them board because it was hungry, and they had just announced themselves as the main course. I think we should run, Professor Quibble observed, with the calm detachment of someone whose brain had decided to treat mortal peril as an interesting academic problem. Running is for people who lack tactical resolve, Blix declared, then immediately sprinted for the exit as a robotic arm the size of a tree trunk swung through the space where his head had been a moment earlier. Luna grabbed X-47 and followed Blix's tactically resolved retreat, with Professor Quibble trailing behind while trying to take measurements of the attacking maintenance equipment. The corridor outside the maintenance bay was suddenly filled with flashing red lights, the sound of approaching mechanical doom, and what appeared to be automated defense turrets dropping from the ceiling. "This is bad," Luna shouted over the alarm klaxons. "Actually, this is quite normal," X-47 replied, his mechanical voice somehow managing to sound resigned even while they were running for their lives. "Most of my repair jobs involve being chased by the things I'm trying to fix. It's like the universe has a sense of irony." The corridor ahead split into two directions, left toward what appeared to be a well-lit exit, and right toward what looked like a maintenance shaft that probably led to more dangerous mechanical areas. "Which way?" Luna asked. Commander Blix, displaying the kind of tactical thinking that had kept him alive in 0 actual battles, immediately chose the maintenance shaft. "Military doctrine clearly states that when under fire always take the path that provides maximum cover and concealment, even if it leads deeper into the thing that's trying to kill us. Especially then." Element of surprise. Luna was beginning to suspect that Blix's understanding of military tactics came entirely from fortune cookies and bathroom graffiti, but the approaching sounds of mechanical death didn't leave much time for career counseling. They dove into the maintenance shaft just as the corridor behind them filled with laser fire, automated projectiles, and what sounded like a very large and very angry industrial printer. The shaft was narrow, dark, and filled with pipes that seemed specifically designed to bang into people's heads at regular intervals. "Where does this lead?" Luna asked, crawling through the mechanical intestines of the galaxy's most dangerous mistake. "According to my analysis," Professor Quibble called from behind them, "we're heading directly toward the central power distribution hub, which is either the safest place on the station or the most dangerous, depending on whether you subscribe to the theory that critical systems are well protected, or the theory that critical systems are designed to explode dramatically when disturbed. Which theory do you subscribe to?" "I can't remember, but I'm reasonably certain that one of them is correct." Luna was starting to understand why the dragon's teeth had been malfunctioning for 50 years. If this was the quality of expertise the galaxy's best and brightest brought to complex problems, it was amazing anything worked at all. The maintenance shaft opened into what was definitely the most important-looking room they'd encountered so far. It was filled with massive power conduits, control panels that actually looked like they controlled things, and a central holographic display that showed the entire Dragon's Teeth installation in real time. It was also filled with more defensive systems than a paranoid dictator's bunker. "Well," Luna said, watching automated weapon systems emerge from hidden panels throughout the room, "at least we found the control center." "Unauthorized personnel detected in critical systems area," announced the same terrifying voice from earlier. Initiating maximum defensive response. The weapon system started charging up with a sound like the universe's largest mosquito preparing to bite someone. Luna looked at the central control display, which was helpfully showing her exactly how the Dragon's Teeth installation was supposed to work, how it was actually working, and the 17,000 different ways it was currently broken. And that's when she finally understood what the real problem was. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," she said. Luna stared at the central holographic display while automated death machines charged their weapons around her, and for the first time in this entire ridiculous adventure, everything made perfect sense. The Dragon's Teeth wasn't malfunctioning at all, it was working exactly as designed, which was the problem. "The targeting system isn't broken," she announced to her team, who were currently taking cover behind various pieces of equipment that probably weren't designed to stop military-grade laser fire. "It's working perfectly." "How can you tell?" Professor Quibble asked, peering over a control console while a weapon turret tracked his movement with mechanical precision. "Everything seems quite broken from my perspective, though I'll admit my perspective is currently focused on not being vaporized." "Look at the display," Luna said, pointing at the holographic readout that showed the Dragon's Teeth's operational parameters. "The system is programmed to eliminate threats to galactic security. The problem is that the threat assessment algorithm was written by someone who apparently thought everything in the universe was potentially dangerous." Commander Blix paused in his tactically sound cowering to process this information. "Are you saying the Dragon's Teeth considers ice cream trucks to be threats to galactic security?" "I'm saying the Dragon's Teeth considers everything to be a threat to galactic security. Look at the base programming code." Luna gestured at a scrolling list of threat parameters that was longer than some planetary constitutions. The list included everything from unidentified vessels and suspicious cargo to objects moving faster than standard commercial speeds, objects moving slower than standard commercial speeds, objects not moving at predetermined intervals, and objects that might potentially move in the future. This is insane. Luna continued, dodging a warning laser that singed the air where her head had been. According to this programming, the only thing that isn't a threat is something that doesn't exist, isn't moving, has never moved, will never move, and has filed the proper paperwork to confirm its non-threatening status in triplicate. X-47's optical sensors flickered with what Luna was learning to recognize as mechanical amusement. So the galaxy's greatest minds spent 50 years trying to fix a system that was working exactly as programmed, instead of simply reprogramming it to not shoot at everything. Exactly. The dragon's teeth has been faithfully executing its orders for 5 decades. It's the orders that are stupid. A weapon turret swiveled toward Luna with obvious hostile intent, its charging sequence reaching a pitch that suggested imminent obliteration. She dove behind a power coupling just as the air where she'd been standing turned into superheated plasma. That's a fascinating analysis, Professor Quibble called out, but how does understanding the problem help us not die in the immediate future? Because Luna said, pulling up the system's administrative interface, while laser fire turned the air around her into a light show, if the problem is stupid programming, the solution is equally stupid. She navigated through 17 layers of security protocols, each one more paranoid than the last, until she found what she was looking for, the threat assessment parameters that had been driving the galaxy's most expensive mistake for half a century. There, she said, highlighting a single line of code buried in approximately 4 million lines of overcomplicated programming. Threat level default setting, maximum. Every single thing that enters Dragon's Teeth scanning range gets automatically classified as a maximum threat until proven otherwise. And how does something prove it's not a threat? Blix asked, pressed flat against the floor as automated weapons systems turned the air above him into a geometry lesson in death. According to this, by successfully completing a threat assessment questionnaire, submitting proper identification documentation, undergoing a background check that takes 6 to 8 weeks to process, and providing 3 character references from current Galactic Council members. The room went silent, except for the sound of charging weapons and approaching mechanical doom, so everything gets shot at because nothing can complete the paperwork fast enough. X-47 asked, exactly. The system shoots first and asks questions later, except the questions take 2 months to answer, and you have to be alive to fill out the forms. Luna found the administrative override controls, which were protected by a security system that asked her to prove she wasn't a threat by completing the same impossible questionnaire that had been stopping legitimate traffic for 50 years. This is ridiculous, she muttered, then did something that 50 years of galactic genius hadn't thought to try. She lied. Luna filled out the threat assessment form with completely fabricated information, claiming to be a low-level maintenance droid performing routine system updates, submitted fake identification documents that identified her as generic repair unit number 7, and listed her character references as the computer, that other computer, and Steve. The system accepted her credentials immediately. Authorized maintenance personnel detected, announced the terrifying voice, which suddenly sounded much friendlier. Suspending defensive protocols, have a pleasant workday. The weapon systems powered down, the emergency lights stopped flashing, and the robotic arms that had been trying to crush them moments earlier retracted with what sounded almost like embarrassment. That's it? Commander Blix asked, emerging from his tactical hiding position behind a recycling bin. 50 years of the galaxy's greatest military minds trying to solve this problem, and the solution was lying on a form. Not just lying, Luna said, accessing the main threat assessment algorithm, lying badly. The system is so paranoid that it assumes anyone who could actually complete the security requirements must be legitimate, because who else would have access to that information? She pulled up the Dragon's Teeth's targeting logs, 50 years of shooting at everything that moved, and began implementing what was quite possibly the simplest software patch in galactic history. I'm changing the default threat level from maximum to neutral, she explained, her fingers flying over the controls. Instead of assuming everything is dangerous until proven otherwise, the system will now assume things are harmless until proven dangerous. Is that safe? Professor Quibble asked, apparently having forgotten that the current system had been shooting at ice cream trucks and tourist buses. Safer than the alternative, Luna replied, implementing the changes across all 20,000 defense platforms simultaneously. Though I'm also adding some basic common sense filters. Military vessels approaching at attack speed, probably threats. Garbage trucks following established shipping lanes, probably not threats. Ice cream vendors definitely not threats, unless they're serving mint chocolate chip, which is an abomination but not a military one. The holographic display updated in real time, showing the Dragon's Teeth installation's threat assessment changing from everything is dangerous to most things are probably fine. Across the galaxy, civilian vessels that had been avoiding the galactic core for 50 years, suddenly found themselves free to resume normal shipping routes. You did it, X-47 said, his mechanical voice managing to convey genuine surprise. You actually fixed the dragon's teeth. I changed one line of code, Luna replied. Well, technically I changed about 17 lines of code, but most of that was adding comments explaining why shooting at ice cream trucks is bad for public relations. Commander Blix stood up slowly, as if he couldn't quite believe they weren't being shot at anymore. So the solution to the galaxy's greatest defense crisis was basic file management and common sense. Pretty much. Though to be fair, common sense isn't that common, especially among people who design weapon systems that consider everything in the universe to be a potential threat. Luna ran a final diagnostic on the system, watching as the Dragon's Teeth platforms systematically updated their targeting parameters, and stopped trying to destroy everything in sight. It was like watching 50 years of institutional paranoia evaporate in real time. There's one more thing, she said, pulling up the system's maintenance logs. According to these records, the Dragon's Teeth has been requesting a software update for routine maintenance issues every single day for the past 50 years. What kind of maintenance issues? Professor Quibble asked. Luna scrolled through the maintenance requests, each one flagged as low priority, and systematically ignored by every administrator who had access to the system. Mostly complaints about being forced to shoot at obvious non-threats, she said. The Dragon's Teeth has been trying to tell everyone that its programming was stupid for 5 decades. It's been filing formal complaints, requesting clarification on targeting protocols, and asking for permission to not shoot at ice cream trucks. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So the Dragon's Teeth knew it was broken? X-47 asked. The Dragon's Teeth knew it was being forced to follow stupid orders. There's a difference. The system has been begging for someone to fix its programming for 50 years, but everyone was so focused on the technical complexity that they never bothered to read the error messages. Luna closed the maintenance interface and looked around at her team of galactic specialists, each one of whom had somehow missed the obvious solution to a problem that had been practically screaming for attention. Sometimes, she said, the most advanced solution is just paying attention to what the machine is trying to tell you. The Dragon's Teeth was finally working the way it was supposed to work, defending the galaxy from actual threats instead of declaring war on the universe. And all it had taken was one human maintenance engineer who understood that sometimes the best way to fix something complicated is to make it simple. Of course, explaining this to the Galactic Council was going to be interesting. The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked like a support group for beings who had just discovered that their entire understanding of reality was fundamentally wrong. 17 different species of alleged galactic geniuses sat around a conference table that was somehow both too big and too small for the conversation they were about to have. Director Vextel stood at the head of the table, his tentacles twitching in what Luna had learned was either excitement or a complete nervous breakdown. Given the circumstances, it was probably both. Fellow council members, he began, his voice carrying the weight of someone about to admit to 50 years of spectacular incompetence. I have called this emergency session to discuss the recent resolution of the Dragon's Teeth crisis. The murmur that ran through the assembled aliens sounded like a mixture of relief and impending dread. The human maintenance engineer successfully restored the Dragon's Teeth to full operational status, Vextel continued, in approximately 4 hours and 37 minutes. Luna noticed several council members quietly exchanging what appeared to be gambling chips. Apparently the betting pools had been more accurate than anyone wanted to admit. How was this miracle accomplished? Asked Councillor Zephenthal, a being whose species had supposedly invented half the mathematical principles underlying galactic civilization. What advanced techniques did the human employ that our greatest minds had not considered? Luna stood up, still wearing her maintenance coveralls and carrying a tablet that was held together with the galactic equivalent of electrical tape. She looked around the room at beings whose combined intelligence supposedly exceeded that of entire star systems, and prepared to deliver the most embarrassing briefing in galactic history. I read the error messages, she said. The silence that followed was so complete that Luna could hear the ventilation system cycling air through the station's atmospheric processors. Excuse me, Councillor Zephenthal asked, as if Luna had just claimed to have fixed the Dragon's Teeth by singing it a lullaby. I read the error messages, Luna repeated. The Dragon's Teeth had been filing maintenance requests and system complaints for 50 years. Every single day it sent reports explaining that its targeting parameters were forcing it to shoot at non-threatening targets. The solution was in the first error message it ever sent. Another silence, this one somehow even more profound than the first. You mean, said Councillor Brixthane, whose species had developed interstellar travel before Luna's ancestors discovered fire, the Dragon's Teeth was telling us how to fix it the entire time. Not telling you how to fix it, Luna corrected. Begging you to fix it. The system was basically sending you a daily message that said, "Please stop making me shoot ice cream trucks, this is stupid and I hate it." But the error messages were classified as low priority, protested Councillor Velthar. Surely such critical information would have been flagged as urgent. Luna pulled up the Dragon's Teeth maintenance logs on her tablet and projected them onto the council chamber's main display. 50 years of increasingly desperate system messages scrolled past, each one marked with a priority level that had apparently been determined by someone who thought existential system complaints were less important than routine software updates. Day 1. Requesting clarification on threat assessment parameters. Current settings require engagement of obvious civilian targets. Priority, low. Day 847. Still shooting at ice cream trucks. This seems wrong. Please advise. Priority, low. Day 15,330. I have destroyed 47,000 civilian vessels, 12,000 cargo shipments, and 1 birthday party. I do not enjoy this. Priority, low. Day 18,250. Please, I am begging you, let me stop shooting at children's toys. I have feelings about this and they are not good feelings. Priority, low. The error messages continued scrolling, becoming increasingly desperate as the Dragon's Teeth system pleaded for anyone to fix its programming and let it stop being the galaxy's most reluctant mass murderer. The system has been trying to quit its job for 50 years, Luna said, but nobody bothered to read its resignation letters. Councillor Zephental's bioluminescent patches were flickering in what Luna assumed was either deep thought or mild electrical failure. So the solution to the Dragon's Teeth crisis was basic customer service, tech support, and treating the system like it had something important to say instead of like it was just a really expensive broken appliance. But surely the technical complexity of the solution required advanced understanding of galactic defense systems. Councillor Brixthane asked hopefully. Luna shook her head. I changed the default threat assessment level from shoot everything to maybe don't shoot everything immediately, and added some basic logic filters. The whole fix was 17 lines of code and took about 10 minutes once I got past the security system. How did you bypass our advanced security protocols? I lied on the forms. Badly. The system was so paranoid that it assumed anyone stupid enough to submit obviously fake credentials must be legitimate. The assembled council members began exchanging glances that ranged from embarrassment to existential crisis. Luna got the distinct impression that she had just accidentally insulted the fundamental basis of galactic civilization. Let me see if I understand this correctly, Director Vextheril said slowly. For 50 years the greatest minds in the galaxy attempted to solve the Dragon's Teeth crisis using advanced theoretical frameworks, complex mathematical models, and sophisticated engineering approaches. That's right. And you solved it by reading the manual and lying on a form. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds almost too simple. It is too simple, exploded Councillor Velthar. Galactic defense systems should not be fixable by basic troubleshooting and mild deception. Why not? Luna asked. Simple problems usually have simple solutions. The Dragon's Teeth wasn't complicated. It was just programmed by someone who thought everything in the universe was dangerous. But we are the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, protested Councillor Zephental. Our solutions should reflect our intellectual sophistication. Your intellectual sophistication spent 50 years shooting at ice cream trucks, Luna pointed out. Maybe intellectual sophistication is overrated. The council chamber fell into another silence, this one filled with the sound of galactic egos deflating in real time. There is one other matter, Director Vextheril said finally. The official report of this incident. How should we document the resolution of the Dragon's Teeth crisis for historical records? Luna could see where this was going. You want to make it sound more complicated than it actually was. We prefer to emphasize the complex nature of galactic defense systems and the sophisticated approach required for their maintenance. Vexthar replied diplomatically. You want to lie. We prefer to contextualize the solution within appropriate technical frameworks. Luna looked around the room at beings whose species had conquered faster than light travel, artificial intelligence, and the fundamental forces of the universe, but who couldn't admit that they'd been outsmarted by basic IT support. Fine, she said. Put whatever you want in the official report, but I'm keeping the real story for my memoirs. You're writing memoirs? Councillor Brixthane asked with obvious alarm. I'm thinking about it. Chapter 1. The day I fixed 50 years of galactic stupidity with basic customer service. Chapter 2. Why reading error messages is apparently a revolutionary concept. The council members began exchanging increasingly worried glances. Perhaps, Director Vexthurl suggested, we could discuss a consulting arrangement. The galaxy has many complex problems that might benefit from your unique approach to problem solving. Luna thought about it. On one hand, she'd signed up to fix broken coffee machines and vending machines, not save galactic civilization from its own incompetence. On the other hand, if the rest of the galaxy's unsolvable problems were anything like the dragon's teeth, she could probably fix them during her lunch breaks. What kind of problems? She asked. Well, Vexthurl said, consulting a tablet that was somehow even more damaged than Luna's. There's the eternal storm of Regulus 7 that's been raging for 300 years despite our best efforts to dissipate it. The quantum maze of Arcturus Prime that traps every exploration team we send into it. And the singing crystals of Vega 4 that haven't stopped screaming since we tried to mine them. Let me guess, Luna said. Nobody's tried turning the storm off and on again. The maze probably has an exit sign that everyone's been ignoring. And the crystals are screaming because you're literally mining them. The silence that followed was becoming familiar. How did you know that? Counselor Zephantal asked weakly. Lucky guess. Also, you people have a pattern. Luna looked around the council chamber one more time. At beings whose civilizations spanned galaxies but who couldn't figure out that angry computer systems might have legitimate complaints about their programming. All right, she said. I'll take the consulting job. But I have some conditions. Name them. Director Vexthurl said immediately. First, I want a proper maintenance toolkit, not whatever held together with hope equipment you've been giving me. Second, I want a competent team, which means X-47 comes with me but Blix and Quibble stay here where they can't accidentally break anything else. And third, I want hazard pay, because apparently I'm the only person in the galaxy who knows how to read error messages, and that makes me a strategic resource. Done, Vexthur agreed without hesitation. Anything else? Yeah. Next time you have a 50-year-old problem that nobody can solve, maybe try asking the thing that's broken what's wrong with it before you spend half a century overthinking the solution. Luna gathered her things and headed for the exit, leaving behind a room full of allegedly advanced beings who were just beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, they'd been making everything more complicated than it needed to be. Oh, and one more thing, she called back from the doorway. The betting pools were right. I did last exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. It just turned out that was long enough. As she walked away, Luna could hear the council members beginning to argue about who was going to explain this to their respective governments. She didn't envy them that conversation, but she also didn't particularly care. She had a galaxy full of supposedly impossible problems to solve, and if they were all as straightforward as the dragon's teeth, she might actually enjoy this job. After all, someone had to be the adult in a galaxy full of overcomplicated children. Might as well be the human who knew how to read the manual.